Hey, first grade, Miss Nelson here. And with school getting close to the end of the year, this is about to be we're about to have next week our final whole grade level Zoom. And it's going to be a themed one as well. Now, just like last week, you guys did such an excellent job last week of guessing what our whole grade level theme Zoom was going to be, that this week we're going to do the same thing, and I'm not going to tell you until right before our Zoom. So you need to be listening to the stories, listening to those clues, try to figure out what is our theme of our Zoom. So today it's going to be a little different. We're going to have our lesson, we're going to have our story, and then at the end I'm going to show you how to make a fun craft that has to do with our story. So our story that we're going to read today is going to have a problem. Okay, and so before we start our reading, I'm going to share with you our chart that we looked at before when we did one of our other stories. It's a problem and solution. And I just want to refresh your memory and remind you that the problem is what goes wrong in a story, or a challenge or an obstacle that the main character, that a character is going to face. And the solution is how the problem is fixed or solved. Okay? So our story that we're going to read today is a very, very funny story. It is called Dog Breath: The Horrible Trouble with Hally Tosis, and it's by Dav Pilkey. So it's by Dav Pilkey. I had to pause. I don't know if you noticed, but I had to pause my recording for just a minute. I hope that it still turns out okay. But we're going to be listening to the story. You're going to listen to it, and I want you to be thinking about what is the problem in this story and what is the solution. Now, this story is about a dog, and this dog's name is Hally Tosis, and poor Hally has horrible dog breath. And I don't know if any of you have a dog, but I know that I've heard a lot about puppies and that puppy breath, because puppies have special, like puppy breath, and but sometimes dogs can get some really smelly breath. And Hally is one of those dogs, and so it causes a lot of problems for her, and it's about to result in a new home for Hally until she uses her bad breath for a good cause. And so we're going to kind of see what happens with Hally and her stinky dog breath. Dog Breath: The Horrible Trouble with Hally Tosis by Dav Pilkey. There once was a dog named Hally who lived with the Tosis family. Hally Tosis was a very good dog, but she had a big problem. Hally Tosis had horrible breath. Whenever Hally Tosis opened her mouth, horrible things happened. Poor fish is floating. When the children took Hally Tosis for a walk, everyone else walked on the other side of the street. Even skunks avoided Hally Tosis. But the real trouble started one day when Grandma Tosis stopped by for a cup of tea. And Hally jumped up to say hello. Mr. and Miss Tosis were not amused. Something has to be done about that smelly dog, they said. Poor Grandma, she's laid out. The next day, Mr. and Mrs. Tosis decided to find a new home for Hally. You have a sign that says "Free dog to a good home." The children knew that the only way they could save their dog was to get rid of her bad breath. So they took Hally Tosis to the top of a mountain that had a breathtaking view. They hoped that the breathtaking view would take Hally's breath away, but it didn't. Even the sun is not happy smelling poor Hally's breath. Next, the children took Hally Tosis to a very exciting movie. They hoped that all the excitement would leave Hally breathless. But it didn't. Finally, the children took Hally Tosis to a carnival. They hoped that Hally would lose her breath on the speedy roller coaster. It says there, you'll lose your breath on our roller coaster. But that idea stunk too. The plans to change Hally's bad breath had failed. Now only a miracle could save Hally Tosis. Sadly, the three friends said goodnight, unaware that a miracle was just on the horizon. Do you see anything or notice anything about this picture? There's a clue. Later that night, when everyone was sound asleep, two sneaky burglars crept into the Tosis house. The two burglars were tiptoeing through the dark, quiet rooms when suddenly they came upon Hally Tosis. "Yikes," whispered one burglar. "It's a big, mean, scary dog." "Ah, don't be silly," whispered the other burglar. "That's only a cute little fuzzy puppy." The two burglars giggled at the sight of such a friendly little dog. "That dog wouldn't hurt a fly," whispered one burglar. "Come here, Poochie Poochie," whispered the other. So Hally Tosis came over and gave the burglars a nice big kiss. Slurp. The next morning, the Tosis family awoke to find two burglars passed out cold on their living room floor. It was a miracle. The Tosis family got a big reward for turning in the crooks, and soon Hally Tosis was the most famous crime-fighting dog in the country. And there's all these newspapers. Hero Hound halts hoodlums. Bad breath bungles burglary. Panting Pooch paralyzes prowlers. Mutant space dog captures evil Elvis clones. And rancid respirations restrain robbers. In the end, Mr. and Mrs. Tosis changed their minds about finding a new home for Hally. They decided to keep their wonderful watchdog after all. And they put out a sign that says, "This home protected by dog breath." Because life without Hally Tosis just wouldn't make any sense. And if you look at that word right there, that word sense, there's two different kind of sense. There's like, it wouldn't make any sense, and then there's sense like what you smell. They spelled that word like what you smell, like sense. All right. I'm going to stop our share. So, the problem's pretty straightforward. What was Hally's problem in this story? It was that she had horrible smelling breath, and it was so bad that her family was about to have to get rid of her. And the kids didn't want to, but they tried everything and they just couldn't figure it out, how to make her breath smell better. But what was the solution? So our problem was that she had this horrible smelling breath. What was the solution to the problem? Well, yeah, Hallie realized after she used her horrible breath to catch the burglars that it wasn't as much of a problem as they thought. It actually would come in handy. So now that I've read you this story, I'm going to show you a quick craft that you can do if you want to make your own Hallie. And if you don't have different color, I'm using construction paper and scissors and glue. That's all that I'm using. I use some markers, but construction paper, scissors, and glue. If you don't have construction paper, you can always use regular white paper and you can just color it. I use the construction paper just because I had it, but if you don't have that at home, then you can just color it. So the first thing that I got was a regular piece of yellow paper. This is going to be my background, and it's just a yellow piece of construction paper. Again, you can use any color for this because all it is your background. So if you can find any colored paper, that can be your background. Even white would work. Then for Hallie's head, I got a brown piece of paper, and it doesn't have to be perfect. This is supposed to be fun, so I just want you to have some fun. Now, the way that I did it to make it a little easier is I drew two shapes on either side, triangles. Those are pretty easy to draw, so I drew a triangle, and then I kind of just did a line in between, and then I drew another triangle, and those are Hallie's ears. And then I just tried to make kind of a circle come underneath the ears. Okay, and so that's how I made Hallie's head. Now, next we have Hallie's nose, which I had a black piece of paper. Again, if you only have white paper, you can use crayons, markers, whatever, and you can color it. You can color your white piece of paper. But I just kind of did like an oval shape for Hallie's nose. Then for, I used another piece of, or I used from the same piece of black paper. I did the head brown. I did the nose, and then I did a mouth in black. So I just used the same piece of paper, and I had plenty left over to do more if I wanted to do more. So there's the nose, and then I did kind of like a moon, looks like a half moon shape. So you can just kind of do like half of a circle and then just kind of do like a line in the middle and make kind of like a moon. And that's Hallie's mouth. Then for Hallie's tongue, I got a red piece of paper. You could use pink, you can use red. If you only have white, you can color it. And I kind of just cut out like a teardrop shape. So I just had a kind of a straight line at the top, and then I just made it fatter at the bottom. And I cut that out after I drew it on my paper. And that is Hallie's tongue. And that's all that you need the red for. Then for Hallie's stinky, smelly breath, I got a piece of green. Because that's kind of what they used in the book was green to show the smelly breath. And all that I did is I just kind of did like a rectangle, and then I just cut a circle on the other side. And as you can see, it's not the prettiest, and that's fine. Yeah, there you can see it's kind of green. And that's how I did the mouth. So all I used one piece of yellow for the background. You can use any color you want though for your background. It could have been blue, it could have been pink, it could have been orange, any color that you wanted, white. I used one piece of brown construction paper for the head. I used one piece of black construction paper for the nose and for the mouth. One piece of red construction paper for the tongue. And then I used one piece of green construction paper for the smelly breath. All right. And I'm going to kind of show you how I put it, or my final product. So what I did before I glued anything on, I took my tongue and I wrote problem at the top. So I'll show you. I wrote problem. And then I put underneath what the problem was. And the problem was that Hally has horrible smelling breath. So I wrote that on the tongue. Then on the stinky cloud of dog breath, I wrote solution. And after solution, I put what the solution was. So the solution was Hally used her horrible breath to catch the burglars, and so they kept her. Her family kept her. And then I just put it all on my paper. So the first thing that I glued down, I got my piece of yellow paper, and I turned it sideways like this, okay? I mean, you could do it this way, but it's not all going to fit as well if you do it this way. So I turned it sideways like this, like a hot dog, okay, sideways. And I glued in the corner, over here, the head. Okay, so I'm going to glue that on for you so you can kind of see. Okay, so I glued it in the corner. Okay, then I took my nose and I kind of put it right in the middle of my head. Okay, so I'm going to put some glue on the back of my nose. I'm just using just regular glue stick and glued my nose. Okay, then my mouth, which my mouth just fell on the floor. Grab my mouth. Okay. So grab my mouth, and before I glued my mouth, I got, which you don't have to do this, I just did it on mine that I did earlier. You can use a white crayon or you can use a white colored pencil. I didn't have a white crayon, but I had a white colored pencil. And because white's really the only thing that's going to show up on that black, I drew and colored some teeth on the top and the bottom, and I just kind of made little circles on the top and the bottom that would kind of look like teeth right there. Okay, then I glued this down on your paper with the smiley looking side up. Okay, so this is what I have so far. Right, now I'm going to draw a couple of eyes right there, and all that I'm going to do for the eyes are just some little circles, but you can do your eyes however you want to. So, got my eyes. Now I'm going to put my tongue on there. So, my tongue, the part where I wrote on it, I'm not going to glue that part, I'm going to glue the back. And I'm going to glue that down. I'm starting, whenever I'm doing my gluing, I'm putting that flat part right there at the top of the mouth, right there. So there's his tongue. And then the last piece is the solution, the stinky breath. So I'm gonna put glue all over that, all over the back of that, not the part that has writing on it, because then you won't be able to see the writing. You want to do it on the back part. So put your glue on that. And then I'm going to, I just kind of did mine just coming right out of the mouth right there, solution. And so now I have, which I need a little more glue right there, but now I have my Hally Tosis problem solution dog that I made all on my own. And I'll show you. This is the one that I did earlier that has the problem written out and the solution. The other one I just did really quickly just now with you. And if you see, I did some little funny looking shapes around it over here, but you don't have to do that. I made this one a little easier so it'd be easier to draw. and cut out for you. So you can do it this way, you can do it this way. It's yours. Have fun with it. And I really hope that you enjoyed this story, and I hope you were listening to and thinking about what clues this could have pointed to for our whole grade level Zoom meeting that we are going to have next week. So I will have another story for you tomorrow. So make sure that you listen up. All right. Bye, guys.